Murder in the first degree, premeditated homicide, is the most serious charge tried in our criminal courts. You have heard a long and complex case, gentlemen, and it is now your duty to sit down and try to separate the facts from the fancy. One man is dead, the life of another is at stake. If there is a reasonable doubt in your minds as to the guilt of the accused, then you must declare him not guilty. If, however, there is no reasonable doubt, then he must be found guilty. The verdict must be unanimous. I urge you to deliberate honestly and thoughtfully. You are faced with a grave responsibility. Thank you, gentlemen. Doesn't stand a chance. Hey, y'all, you guys want some gum? Thank you, but no. Gum? No? Alright, your loss. Hey, you know something? I know lots of things. I'm in advertising. You know, it's so hot in here. I never would have known that if you hadn't said that. Would you? Suppose not. I kind of forgot already. All that I've done today is sweat, alright? Let me tell you. Bet y'all aren't sweating like that kid who was tried. You'd think they at least air condition this place. Almost dropped dead in court. My taxes are high enough. This should go fast. Yes, it is hot. Alright, gentlemen. Everyone's here. If there's anything you need, be right inside this door. Just knock. Like that. Did he just lock that door? Yes, he did. What do they think we are? Crooks? They'll lock us up for a little while, and then they'll lock up that kid forever, and that's perfectly fine with me. Never knew they did that. They surely locked the door. What do you think? I just didn't know. It never occurred to me. Alright, let's all admit that it's hot, inhuman, and our tempers are kind of short, alright? It's been a pretty hard week. I feel just fine. Wonder how it's going down in the office. You know how it is in advertising. 6 days, my job could be gone. The whole company. They are not gonna like this. Well, figure this our duty. I'm not objecting to doing my duty. I'm just saying, I might not have a job by the time I get back. Ask him to hire him. Look at that suit. I mean, whew. That looks expensive. Yeah. Is that custom tailored? Yes, it is. I've got an uncle who's a tailor. How does he do? Not too well. You know, a friend of my uncle that is, the tailor, wanted to take my place on the jury instead of me. Why didn't you let him? Wouldn't done anything to miss this. And get caught or something? You know what kind of fine I'd have to pay? Anyway, this friend of my uncle's was on a jury about 10 years ago. It was a case about the same thing. So what happened? Let him off. Reasonable doubt. Turns out, after 8 years, they found out he was the one who did it anyways. A guilty man. A murderer let loose in the streets. Did they get him? They couldn't. Why not? A man can't be held in double jeopardy unless it's a hung jury. You can't be tried for the same crime twice. That's not gonna happen here. 6 days! They should have had this finished in 2. Talk, talk, talk. Did you ever hear so much talk about nothing? Well, I guess they're entitled. Everyone gets a fair trial. That's our system. Suppose I can't say anything against it. How do you like that business about the knife? Did you ever hear a phonier story? Oh, look. You've got to expect that. You know what you're dealing with. Brought a switch knife that night, and then he lost it. Yeah, into a hole in his pocket. Can you believe it? A hole in his father. An awful way to kill your father. A knife in the chest. Look at the kind of people they are. You know them. What's the matter? Got a cold? Lulu, these hot weather colds can kill you. I had one last year. I was on vacation, too. Alright, gentlemen, let's all take our seats. Right, this better be fast. I got tickets for Cats tonight. I must be the only guy in the world who hasn't seen it yet. Can you believe it? Alright, Your Honor. Start the show. How about sitting down? The gentleman at the window? How about sitting down? Oh, sorry. It's tough to figure, isn't it? Kid kills his own father, bing, just like that. Well, it's the element. I swear, they just let these kids run wild. Maybe it serves them right. There are better proofs than some emotions you have. Perhaps a dislike for certain people. We all agree that it was hot. And that our tempers will get short. That's if we disagree. This is an open and shut case, though. Let's just get it done. Alright, now, you gentlemen can handle this any way you want. I really don't care. I'm not gonna set any rules. If you want to discuss this and then take a vote, we can do that. That's one way we can do it. Or we can vote right now and just see how we all stand. Let's vote now. Who knows? Maybe we can all go home. Yeah, let's see who's here. Right. Let's vote now. Alright, let's vote. Alright, anybody who does want to vote, say aye. That was easy. Okay, all of those who are voting guilty, raise your hand. Eight, 9, 10, 11. Alright, 11 for guilty. Okay, anyone who's voting not guilty, raise their hand. Hey, you're in left field. Okay, 11 to 1. 11 guilty, 1 not guilty. Now we know where we stand. Really believe he's not guilty? I don't know. 6 days and he still doesn't know. In 6 days I could learn calculus. This is ABC. I don't believe this should be as simple as ABC. Never seen a guiltier man in my life. What does a guilty man look like? He's guilty when we say he's guilty. Are we gonna judge him by his face? You sat right in court and heard the same things I did. That man is a dangerous killer. You could see it. Where do you look to see if a man's a killer? Oh, well, I would like to know. Tell me what the facial characteristics of a killer are. Maybe you know something I don't. Look, what is it about this case that makes you think this kid is innocent? He's 19 years old. That's old enough. He knifed his own man. 4 inches into the chest. That little innocent 19-year-old kid. Hey, I agree with you. I think this kid is guilty. I think we should leave emotionally colored arguments out of it. Alright, they proved it in a dozen different ways. You want me to list them off for you? No? Well, do you believe that stupid story he told? Now. Do you believe the kid's story? I don't know whether I believe it or not. Maybe I don't. So what'd you vote not guilty for? There were 11 votes for guilty. It's not so easy for me to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without at least talking about it first. Who says it was easy for me? Or me? I'm not saying it was easy for anyone. He's still just as guilty, whether it's an easy vote or a hard vote. Is there something wrong because I voted fast? Not necessarily. I think the guy's guilty. You couldn't change my mind if you talked for 100 years. I don't want to change your mind. Just what are you thinking of? I just want to talk for a while. Look, this boy's been kicked around all his life. You know, living in a slum, his mother's been dead since he was 9. That's not a very good head start. He's a tough, angry kid. You know why slum kids get this way? Because we knock him over the head once a day, every day. I think maybe we owe him a few words. That's all. Alright, it was hard for me too. I'll give you that. It's hard for everyone. I fought for everything I have, and that was a long time ago, so I may have forgotten a few things. I forget, but I don't kill people. I know what it's like. I never kill anyone. Yeah, I've been kicked around too. Wait until you're working at an agency, and the big boy who buys all the advertising comes in. Whew, you'll know. In my country, in Europe, kicking was a science. But let's try to find something better than that. Alright, I'm not telling you this, mister, but we don't owe this kid a thing. He got his fair trial, didn't he? He's even lucky he got that. Look, we're all grown-ups here. You're not gonna tell us that we're supposed to believe him, knowing what he is. I lived among them my whole life. Can't believe a word they say. You know that. You don't know that. Since when has dishonesty been a group characteristic? What a terrible thing for a man to believe. You have no monopoly on the truth. Alright, it's not Sunday. We don't need a sermon over here. What this man says is very dangerous. I don't see any need for arguing like this. We ought to be able to behave like gentlemen here. Right! Oh, alright, if you insist. Thank you. Sure. If we're going to discuss the case, why don't we discuss the facts? That's a good point. We have a job, let's do it. If you gentlemen don't mind, I'm going to close the window. Many apologies. It was blowing on my neck. Actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to have the window open. But it was blowing on me. Don't you want a little air? It's hot. It's summer. I was very uncomfortable. There are 12 of us in this room. It's the only window, if you don't mind. I have some rights too. So do the rest of us. Couldn't you trade seats with someone on the other end of the table? Alright, I will open the window if somebody agrees to trade seats with me. I don't mind switching seats. Oh, thank you. Quite glad that is resolved now. Shall we get back to the case now? Yeah, let's. I might have an idea here, and I'm just thinking out loud here, but it seems like to me it's up to the 11 of us to convince this fine gentleman that he's wrong. Maybe if we all took about 2 minutes, try that on for size. That sounds fair enough. Very fair. Suppose we go once around the table. Okay, let's start it off. Right. We'll start with you. Oh, well, I just think he's guilty. I thought it was obvious. In what way was it obvious? I mean, nobody proved otherwise. Nobody has to prove otherwise. It's innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proof lies in the prosecution. The defendant hasn't even opened his mouth. The Constitution, Fifth Amendment, ever heard of it? Everyone has. Well, sure I've heard of it. Everyone has. I just think he's guilty. No reasons, just guilty. There's a life at stake here. Okay, let's get to the facts. Number 1, let's take the old man who lived on the 2nd floor right underneath the room where the murder took place. At 10 minutes after 12, on the night of the killing, he heard loud noises in the upstairs apartment. He said it sounded like a fight. Then he heard the boy say to his father, "I'm going to kill you." A second later, he heard a body falling, and he ran to the door of his apartment, looked out, and saw the kid running down the stairs and out of the house. Then he called the police. They found the father with a knife in the chest. And the coroner fixed the time of death at right around midnight. Right. What else do you want? It doesn't seem to fit. The boy's entire story is a bit flimsy and kind of ridiculous if you think about it. He went to the movies but doesn't remember what movie he saw. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. He didn't have any ticket stub. Who keeps his ticket stub at the movies? It's true enough. I suppose, but the cashier didn't even recognize him. And the ticket taker didn't either. Look, what about the woman across the street? She saw the murder take place. If she doesn't prove it, nothing does. That's right. She saw the killing, didn't she? Hey. Let's go in order. Just a minute. Here's a woman lying in bed in summer. It's hot. You can't sleep. You know what it's like. So anyways, she gets up, looks out the window, just in time to see the boy across the street knife his dad. How can she really be sure that it was the kid she saw out of the window of a moving elevated train? She's known the kid his whole life. They've lived across the L tracks from each other, window to window. She swore she saw him do it. I heard her swear on it. Okay, and they proved in court that you could look out the window of a passing L train and see right through it. They proved it! Weren't you just telling us a moment ago how you can't believe them? How you can't trust them? So? Then I'd like to ask you something. How come you believe her? Isn't she one of them too? You're a pretty smart fella, aren't you? Go on, sit down. It's okay. What are you letting him get you all riled up for? Relax. Gentlemen, they did take us out to the women's room, and we looked through the windows of passing L train, didn't we? Yes, we did. And weren't you able to see what happened on the other side? I didn't see it as well as they told me I would, but I did see what happened on the other side. You see? Don't you see? Let's calm down. It's your turn. I'll pass. That's your privilege. How about you? I don't know. I was starting to be convinced, the testimony was for the people across the hall. Didn't they say something about an argument between the father and his son? At around 7 o'clock at night? I mean, I could be wrong. I think it was 8 o'clock, not 7. That's right, 8 o'clock. They heard the father hit the boy twice, and he walked angrily out of the house. Right. What does that prove? Well, it doesn't exactly prove anything. It's just a part of the bigger picture. I didn't say it proved anything. Anything else? No. I don't know. Mostly already been said already. We could talk all day about this thing, but I think we're wasting our time. I don't. Neither do I. Go on. I mean, look at this kid's record. He stole a car. He's been arrested for mugging. I think they said he stabbed somebody in the arm before. They did. He was picked up for knife fighting. At 15, he was in a reform school. Yeah, and they sent him to a reform school for stabbing someone. This is a very fine boy. Ever since he was 5 years old, his father beat up on him every day. He's used his fists. So would I. A kid like that? You're right. It's the kids. It's just the way they are. They don't listen, you know? I've got a kid. When he was 8 years old, he ran away from a fight. I saw him. I was so ashamed. I told him outright, I'm gonna make a man out of you, or I'm gonna bust you up into little pieces trying. When he was 15, he hit me in the face. He's big, you know? I haven't seen him in 3 years. Rotten kid. I hate tough kids. You work your heart out. Alright, let's get on with it. Okay, we're missing the point here. This boy, let's say he's the product of a filthy neighborhood and a broken home. We can't help that. And we're not going to get into the reasons why slums are potential breeding grounds for criminals, okay? You know that, so do I. The kids who come out of the slums, out of slum backgrounds, are potential menaces to society. You said it there. I don't want any part of them. Believe me. I've lived in a slum my whole life. Now wait a second. I used to play in a backyard that was filled with garbage. Maybe it still smells on me. Now, let's be reasonable. There was nothing personal. There is something personal. Come on now, I didn't mean you, feller. Let's not be so sensitive here, alright? Who did he mean? I can understand this sensitivity. Okay, let's stop with the bickering. We're wasting time. Your turn. Alright, I had a peculiar feeling about this trial. Somehow I felt the defense counsel didn't conduct a thorough cross-examination. Too many questions were left unasked. While it doesn't change my opinion about the guilt of the kid, still, I agree with you that the defense counsel was pretty bad. So... that's a point. What about facts? So many questions were never answered. What about the questions that were answered? For instance, let's talk about the cute little switch knife. You know, the one that this fine, upright gentleman claimed... no, not even claimed. He admitted to buying. Alright, let's talk about it. Let's get it in here and look at it, actually. I'd like to see the knife again, Mr. Foreman. We all know what it looks like. I don't see why we have to see it again. What do you think of it? Gentleman has a right to see the exhibits and evidence. Fine by me. The knife is a pretty strong piece of evidence, don't you think? I do. Now, let's get the sequence of events right as they relate to the switch knife. The boy missed leaving his home at about 8 o'clock after being slapped by his father. Or punched. Or punched. He went to a neighborhood store and bought a switch knife. The following day, the storekeeper was arrested after he admitted to selling the boy the knife. I think everyone agrees that's a pretty unusual knife. Kinda hard to forget something like that. The storekeeper identified the knife, and he said it was the only one of the kind that he had in stock. Yeah, as a present for a friend. Like everything right? Right. You bet he's right. Listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. Next, the boy claims that on his way home, the knife must have fallen out in a hole in his pocket. There's a story, gentlemen. Now, what I say would happen is a few hours later, he took it home, stabbed his father. A couple hours later, took it back, and even remembered to wipe the prints off of it. Oh, thank you. Alright, everybody who's connected to this case identified the knife. That means either A, the boy killed his father with this knife, this very knife, or B, he lost his knife, threw a hole in his pocket, somebody picks it up off the street and goes, this belongs to what's-his-face. Let's go kill his father. Which one's more plausible? No, I'm saying it's possible that the boy lost the knife and somebody stabbed him with a similar looking knife. It's possible. I want everyone to look at that knife. Never seen anything like it. Neither the storekeeper who sold it to us. Now you're trying to convince all of us that someone found either the same knife as that or that exact one. It's a pretty incredible coincidence, don't you think? I'm not trying to make anyone accept it. I'm just saying it's possible. And I'm saying it's not possible! Look at that. It's the same knife. What are you trying to do? Yeah, what is this? Who do you think you are? Quiet. Let's be quiet. Where did you get that? I got it from a little junk store around the corner from the boy's house. It cost $2. Now listen to me. Alright, I'm listening. You pulled a real smart move here, but you proved absolutely zero. Maybe 10 knives like that. So what? Maybe there are. The boy lied and you know it. And maybe he didn't lie. Maybe he did go to the movies. Maybe the reason the cashier didn't see him was because he snuck into the movies. And maybe he was ashamed to say so. Is there anyone here who didn't sneak into the movies once or twice when they were a kid? I didn't. Really? Not even once? We didn't have movies. Maybe he did go to the movies. Maybe he didn't. And he may have lied. Do you think he lied? No, that's a stupid question. Sure he lied. Do you? You don't have to ask me that. You know my answer. He lied. Do you think he lied? I don't know. Now wait a second, who are you? This guy's a lawyer? What are you trying to accomplish here? There's still 11 of us who think he's guilty. Even if you want to stay stubborn and hang this jury, he'll just be tried again and found guilty sure as he's born. You're probably right. So what are you gonna do about it? We can be here all night. It's only one night. A man may die. Oh, now, come on! Well, that's true. I think we gotta get on with it now. Right, let's get going here. Now, how do you like this guy? Well, what do you say? You're the one holding up the show. Obviously, you don't think this boy is guilty. I have a doubt in my mind. But you haven't presented anything to us to help us understand your doubt. There's the old man downstairs. He heard everything. Heard him shriek it out. The woman across the L tracks. She saw it. We know he bought a switch knife that night. We don't know where he was. The movies? Earlier that night, the boy and his father did have a fight. He's been a violent kid all the way. While that doesn't prove anything, still, you know? I've got a proposition to make. I want to call a vote. I want you 11 men to vote via secret ballot. I'll abstain. If there are still 11 votes for guilty, then I won't stand alone, and we'll take a guilty verdict right now. Okay, let's do it. That sounds fair. Everyone agree? I certainly do. Let's roll with it. Perhaps this is best. Guilty. 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 That's 6. Please. 6 guilty. 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 Not guilty. Guilty. How do you like that? Who was it? I think we have a right to know. Who changed their vote? Who was it that Aid was successfully able to convince that the kid was not guilty? Find out next time on Matt Doesn't Want to Write a Paper, so he recreates part of a play to get around it. Part 2.